Alright, what's up everybody? It's Dr. Artillery back yet again. Today I'm going to be going over what I believe to be some of the very best tech cards that you can put in your deck and really help you earn a lot of wins and big 8 cube wins hopefully. So if you're not familiar with tech cards and that term, it's basically cards that you put in your deck just to counter other decks, to counter the meta. They don't necessarily synergize with your deck, and maybe on their own they're actually weaker than kind of the standard option you would put in that slot, but they can really surprise your opponent and really shut down some of the opponent's decks. Okay, so some of the cards I'm going to be talking about today specifically are underplayed, and this really gives them the element of surprise. Okay, they can cause huge swings in a game, really change it up, but your opponent's not going to play around them. They're not going to be thinking you have this in your deck, and they're going to be pretty surprised and maybe a little mad when they lose their 8 cubes. So to start here, let's take a look at some 3-cost cards, because one card that I rarely see played and can be so good is Rogue. Okay, now Rogue is a pool 3 card. Some of you may not have her yet, but she is a 3/1 on reveal, steal an ongoing ability from a random enemy card at this location. Now, the amount of ongoing cards in common decks, is going to vary from one meta to the next, but often you're going to find a good amount. Devil Dino is always prevalent. He's just such a popular card. You'll see cards like Darkhawk, who, took a bit of a hit with the Zabu nerf, but then you still have Zabu is now 2 costs with an ongoing, so you can even steal that with Rogue. So Rogue's really good, and she can be a really big surprise on turn 6. If your opponent has Devil Dino in one lane or something else with a big ongoing, maybe it's a Mr. Negative deck with Iron Man, they're thinking there's no way you're winning that lane. They're going to play on the other lanes, and all of a sudden you not only copy that power from like Devil Dino or Iron Man, but you take it away from them. So you can cause a huge shift in the power of one lane right on turn 6 with Rogue. Okay, and like I said, no one's playing around Rogue. She's so underplayed. They're not going to worry about it. Now what they might play around, but still such a good card and is super popular for a reason. I am looking for the good boy. Here he is. We've got Cosmo, and everyone knows Cosmo. Everyone's familiar with him. He's pretty popular for obvious reasons, but Cosmo is best played on turn 6 in my opinion. He can just shut down certain, turn 6 on a reveal or big combos from your opponents. He was great shutting down Silver Surfer decks. So Cosmo is always great, but he is a bit more expected because of how common he is in the meta. All right, so now if we look at some 4-drops here though, these are still cards, you can save until turn 5 or 6 to play. I like SpiderMan. SpiderMan has won me so many games. I like playing SpiderMan on turn 5. You are floating 1 energy, but maybe you have Sunspot to make it up, or you can play another card. And turn 5, you just drop him on a lane. Turn 6, your opponent can't play there. Almost always that means you have won the lane if you have enough power there once you've played SpiderMan. So he's not as good for earning 8 cube wins as some of the other cards I'm going to mention in this video, but he is good at just securing wins. And often what I'll do is I'll snap on turn 4 or 5, drop SpiderMan, and then they retreat on turn 6. And sometimes they'll have snapped also, so you can get 2 or 4 cube wins here. And no one's really expecting SpiderMan. He really only saw a ton of play before Zabu got nerfed, and you'd see like SpiderMan, Absorbing Man, right, that annoying combo. He's just really good. His decent power, nothing crazy, but he shuts down a lane. So he's solid. And then, of course, we've got ShangChi. He's pretty played around. Okay, people kind of expect ShangChi, if they play a big card, over 9 power, and you snap right when they play it, they're going to know you have it. Okay, so I personally prefer SpiderMan if you're looking for, like a 4 cost, 3 power, they have the same stat line, right? To, really be a tech card and counter your opponent's plays. So if you haven't played much SpiderMan, I highly recommend it. Another great card we have is Claw. Claw is so good, and unless you're playing an ongoing deck, your opponent is not going to expect you to have Claw. In fact, there's not many cards in like top meta decks that can actually add a bunch of power to lanes you can't play in. Okay, so if you've had a lane that was shut down due to the likes of Spider-Man or Professor X, or maybe just, the location itself said you couldn't play cards there. Oftentimes decks have trouble adding in. They really do have trouble adding in power to those lanes. Sometimes you see Doctor Doom, he can add in 5 power to other lanes. Claude's in 6. He's a 5 cost, and he's so good. No one's expecting you to play Claw on turn 5 or 6 if you're not in an ongoing deck. But he's a strong card. I mean, even if you don't try to power him up with Spectrum, 5 cost card, that's 10 power spread across 2 lanes, right? That's the Dr. Octopus stat line right there. So he's really strong. I highly recommend him. Just throw him in a random deck and see how he does, because he can really surprise your opponent when they think they have a lane completely locked down and, get you that win, get you some nice 8 cubes. We've also got Arrow. Now, Arrow is really popular because she is so good. Most people know how good she is. But, man, I have lost so many times to a turn 6 Arrow where I think I've got my opponent beat. Maybe even, their location is filled on their side. I think they can't play any cards there. I just need to play this one card here to beat them in power. And they just play Arrow in some other lane and drag my card away, and they keep that location as one. So Arrow is super good. Obviously, she's a 5 cost again, but she's so good played on turn 6. You can really surprise your opponents and just really bug them. She's kind of annoying to lose to. She's popular, but she's not played around because she's hard to play around. I mean, you can play on any of the 3 lanes to move cards. It is very difficult to play around Arrow and, try to figure out if your opponent's going to play her and where they're going to play her if you're trying to do Cosmo. I mean, she does not have much counterplay. Okay, so even though people know about her, you really don't play around her because you can't. And to look at some 6 drops, what I like here is Heimdall. So Heimdall, you see him in movement decks, and that's it, right? If you're a movement deck, you're probably running Heimdall. There's those memes about movement players turn 6 dropping Heimdall, even if it's not going to help them or even lose them the game. And he's just pretty good outside of movement decks. I mean, he's really surprising. You can do crazy stuff like play Dr. Octopus on the right lane on turn 5, drags all your opponents, big cards down there. They win that lane big time. They think they got it. Turn 6, you drop Heimdall on, maybe the left lane or even the middle lane. You pull your Dr. Octopus over. Okay, so you give up that one lane and you try to win the other 2. But no one's expecting a Heimdall to come down turn 6 if you're not running a movement deck. He can be really good. He's also, again, like Claw, just really good at getting in some locations that are hard to play in. I mean, if you've got a location that's kind of locked down and it's on the left or the middle lane, turn 6, you drop Heimdall, you can add cards in there. Okay, you can add a lot of power to those lanes. When you're playing a deck and you drop Heimdall, you are going to surprise your opponent. There's a lot you can build around with him. And if you're already winning the game, you could just keep him in your hand and not play him. Kind of be like America Chavez in that instance where, you just draw her and you use her to have a higher chance of drawing your other cards, but you don't actually play her on turn 6 too much. So Heimdall's a very strong tech card that I'm a bit surprised I don't see more of as being used as a tech card. I definitely recommend trying him out, and I think I'm going to try him out a bit more, especially with the sick Flaviano variant. And then we've got Giganto. Giganto, he a big boy. Oh, he big. He is large and in charge. 14 power. Your opponent is not expecting that on turn 6. They are not expecting you to just lay down 14 power at the left location. Unless you're playing a 0 Shuri deck, your opponent's not expecting this kind of power. Okay, so you can focus on the middle and right locations early on if you know you have Giganto in your hand, or if you just expect to draw him. Your opponent maybe thinks you're just giving up that left lane. Turn 6, you just slap him down. I mean, he's just so good. If you even just have a little bit of power in that lane, you can just focus hard on one of the other lanes. Turn 6, really swing that one. So Giganto is so good. He is surprising. I've been surprised by him a good number of times. Again, if I'm not playing a deck that has, Lockjaw, Jubilee, Shuri, I'm never expecting them to play 14 power in turn 6. You just don't see that coming. So Giganto's worth trying out. He is another pool 3 card. So some of you may not have him, but luckily Claw and Heimdall on this list are both pool 1 and 2. And then we've also just got Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom, he's a bit more common. A lot of people know about him and play him. Adding 5 powers to other locations, again, people just don't respect the possibility that you could add power to a lane that's closed off. They will snap. They will not play around Doctor Doom. I've lost to Doctor Doom countless times. I forget about him or I just don't play around him. Just being able to add a decent chunk of power, in this case 5, that's a good amount of power, to 2 other lanes, that's just really strong. Okay, so again, especially against those decks that, use Storm or something to lock it down and they think you can't add power there. I definitely recommend trying to play out more Doctor Doom and make sure to play around him, okay? Because if you see an Electro deck, you should assume they have Doctor Doom. You should be ready for them to add those little Doom bots to the other lanes. So those are my top tech cards right now. I've played around with most of them. I've really found some success. You can even, just put them in a random deck. If you just have a random control deck, maybe you've got, like a Daredevil deck or something, put these cards in. They don't have specific synergy, but they can really just counter your opponent, and that is so, so strong. So I hope you guys give some of these cards a try. Let me know how they work out for you. Tell me about your huge 8-cube wins when you surprise your opponents with turn 6 Heimdall or Rogue or something. And I'll see you guys next time.